Hey guys, it's Vandy Aslo by your Carpet Vanguard deck profiles. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. This time we are covering DZ set 10 with Hound Raisers. So Hound Raisers was that one deck that was pretty much based around a bunch of high beasts, which was pretty much Akane but a grade 3 version, which we all thought would have been pretty good, at least on first debut, because we all thought there were a lot more good high beasts in Keter Sanctuary than there was, and then we realized that there wasn't a lot of good high beasts. And then the next set came around, we got a few good cards, but it wasn't that great. And now DZ set 10 has come around, and honestly, we got a really good searcher. And just the deck has seemed just to be more of a beatdown deck, which I'm fine with because it's grade 1 aggro, so it's beatdown with grade 1 aggro in it. So let's get the start shot and see what we got. First today we have our Energy Generator. It is our Ride deck crest. You mainly ride deck crest in your Ride deck. Auto Ride deck, when you ride, puts card to your crest zone. If you win second energy charge 3, continues to manage 10 energy, auto begin to ride phase energy charge 3, then act once per turn, energy about 7, draw a card. On pretty solid, you get a free 3 energy every turn. If you win second, you get an extra 3 on top of that. And once you have 7 or more energy, you can blast 7 of it to draw a card. Pretty solid. This deck does have a very good offensive card that you want to use your 3 energy on, so you'll pretty much never use the energy about 7 to draw a card. However, if that card isn't in your hand or you don't have 2 copies of it, then you can always feel free to energy boss 7 to draw, because there obviously will come games where you can't have access to that card. Though our newest searcher and our ways to deck them with it just being Keter Sanctuary in general makes it kind of hard not to have that card in hand. Moving on to our starter, we have Hound Raiser Kika. Grades will boost 5k shield, 6k base, auto road point for second draw card, standard starter, and up free draw if you go second. It means any starter you want, none of the ride line requires Kika, but why wouldn't you make a Kika? Because A, you want it to be the canonical ride line, and B, look at the cute puppy! It's so cute! His little blue fur, and then like the little cape. I love this deck for this little reason of I get to see dogs and artworks and they're so cute. I'm not gonna not run this deck. Anyways, we now have our over trigger. Moving on to Light Dragon of Honors, Armortino. I think I made my dogs jealous because my dogs are all around me right now and all of them looked up at me when I did that. Anyways, grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. Over trigger, you won't have over trigger in your deck. Revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose on music, get plus 1 million for the turn. And revealed it during your drive check, activate the addition effect, which until end of turn you can also perform drive checks with the battles your rear guard attack. All around pretty solid. Unfortunately, how this deck works, you're not going to be attacking with the back row center second, you're always going to be attacking with it first. So pretty much you're only going to be able to get somewhere between 4 and, well, to be fair, that back row unit also gets drive checks too, but the point is that you're going to be getting somewhere between like 5 to 7 drive checks in a turn, which is honestly pretty solid, especially if you set up your board to be super aggressive. You can make this vulnerable for more consistent multi-attacking, which I definitely see reasons why, or you can make it as Fourier for extra crit pressure and recycling. However, I choose to make it Armortino because I like running the Nation over triggers, and doing extra drive checks with this deck is pretty fun. Moving on, we have our normal triggers. We have 3 front in Bard of Heavenly Song Alpac. Grades will boost 15k shield, 4k base. Contains guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or greater at 5,000 to the shield. So you know she's a 20k shield and she's a front trigger, so she has numbers to the front row. But I want to focus on our back row too. Remember, our back row is pretty much always getting 5k thanks to the Vanguard skill, and pretty much all of them have the ability to give themselves an extra 5k as well. So I'm not really too worried about the numbers coming to the back row, so might as well have more numbers overall for front row pressure, especially with the extra crit pressure that one of our really good supporting grade 3s have. And it's a 20k shield, so it's nice to have. Then we have a total of 8 crit, 4 of them being Chevalmia. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k base. You make this any crit you want. I chose to make a Chevalmia because it's a high beast crit, and that way you can superior call off of Aoi in case your opponent is playing a board new deck and you're just having to scramble for rear guards. You know, worst case scenario, if you do call Chevalmia out to the rear guard, at least it's a high beast, so it'll get numbers off of Aoi. So 4 of it, and then 4 copies of Blade Feather Dragon. Grades will boost 50k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear guard, valid boosters, shove to soul, choosing you can give 2k for the turn. There's probably another high beast crit that you could put here. The reason why I chose Blade Feather specifically though is because even though it's not a high beast, so it can't benefit off the rest of the deck, it can go to soul and give you 2k, and while that 2k pretty much will never make the difference, it can go to soul, and in a deck where the main grade 3 costs 2 soul for its skill, any soul charging effect is appreciated. Even though 9 times out of 10 you won't be using that skill, it's still nice to have it in case for that 1 time out of 10 it does come in useful. So a total of 8 crit for offensive pressure, 3 front to keep up with that offensive pressure, and then 4 heal and bringer of distance sounds erroneous. Grades will boost 50k shield, 5k power. Standing heal, you make any who you want. I don't think there's a high beast heal, but also to be fair, I didn't look. I mainly just kept it Arnis because I count Chevalmia and Arnis as like combo cards, so if I have one of them in the deck, I have to have the other one in the deck just for the sake of theming. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 3 copies of one of our new guys, Guragon. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base, the most edgy Shadow Paladin high beast in this deck by a long shot. Continues back or rear guard circle. If you have 3 or more grade 1 or less back or rear guards, you get 5,000 power, active on player's turns. That ability is proccable regardless of what grade either player is at. So if you just straight up full board aggro your opponent on turn 1, or let's be realistic, on turn 2 when you have a full board and 3 of them are high beasts in the back row, this mofo is a 13k base. Pretty solid, especially when you get to Aoi, because once you get to Aoi, every single time it's your turn, your back row will always be grade 1 or less rear guards, which means this thing will be a constant 18k base, 5 from its skill, 5 from Aoi's skill. God knows what else you have in that back row. So all around, really good for offensive pressure. And again, like I said before, this is grade 1 rush beat stick. So yeah, take that as you will. Good for numbers, 3 of. And then we have 4 copies of, obviously, just a generically good high beast, Saragon. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, 8k base. Auto rear guard when it boosts anything. If you have either more rear guards than your opponent or you played an order this turn, there are no orders in this deck. You will always have more rear guards than your opponent unless your opponent is also playing a Boulder Rush deck. This unit gets 5,000 power for the battle, and at the end of the battle, retire it, check the top 2, choose a card from among them, put it in your hand, and put the rest on the bottom. So cool, it's a way to add something from the top 2 to your hand and bot deck the rest. Not to mention the fact that in this deck, you can constantly superior call rear guards, and because it empties out your board, that prepares you for the next turn to refill with whatever you want. So one turn you can play super defensively and consistency with Zeragon, and the next turn you can go all out with something like Raygon over here. All around, pretty solid, great one to have in the deck. It can get expensive, and unfortunately, there's no real good high beast to replace this with. So if you want to replace this with the Hound Razor that got released in set 8, or the other Hound Razor that got released in set 10, the Melgon one, the little horse thing, you can feel free to do that as well. Though honestly, if you can afford to run Zeragon, run Zeragon. Moving on, we have 4 copies of Raygon. Great on boost 5k shield, AK base. Continuous if you have a grade 3 Keter Vanguard with Hound Razor on the card, and gets all the following. Continuous back or rear guard center. During the battle of the attack, when your opponent will call cards from the guard circle, so 2 more at the same time. So that already tells you that our deck focuses on attacking from the back row center. So being able to force out 2 extra cards while this thing attacks, and then, you know, obviously your opponent's probably going to PG the Vanguard, is pretty solid. That way it guarantees 4 cards always coming out of hand within the same battle phase, which is good for aggressive pressure. And it continues guard, so it gets 5,000 shield. So cool. It's a 10k shield. This deck does have a way to gain the ability to intercept from back row, thanks to, again, one of our really good supporting grade 3s. So being able to have a little bit of aggressive power and defensive power mixed into one card is good. Force out extra guard cards, but also at the same time acts as extra shield during your opponent's turn. So it's a very solid 4th to have. But as we all know, I'm much more of an aggressive player, so I value certain aggressive cards over it, such as Melgon, grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base. Auto when placed on rear guard circle if your Vanguard is a Hound Razor, Soul Charge 1, or Energy Charge 1. This card can be placed on the rear guard circle from anywhere by any means, so whether it's hard called, normal called, superior called from deck, whatever, it's going to be able to proc off this skill regardless of what grade your Vanguard is. As long as the Hound Razor, you can pull it off on grade 1, and you either Soul Charge 1 or Energy Charge 1, so you get extra energy to, again, spam your energy generator with, slash spam your really good grade 3 with, or get you Soul, which again gives you resources for AoE. That continues back or rear guard circle, anywhere in the back or rear guard. Your Vanguard's a Hound Razor, again, of any grade, it gets 5,000 power, so it's a 13k base as long as your Vanguard's a Hound Razor. And if it's in the back row center and your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, then it becomes a plus 10k instead of plus 5, plus an AoE skill, which will make it a total of a 23k base. So I have a 23k base and an 18k base in the same turn. All around, pretty solid grade 1 to have. Gets really good numbers all around, not to mention that it gives you really consistent resources literally just by being placed. And if you found a way to recycle your Hound Beast back into your deck, then you could end up just superior calling them back out with AoE and then get the same resources back, making this card a very solid 4th to have in the deck. Then we have 4 copies of our newest high beast, who is really good with consistency, Villagon. Grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base. I do wonder why Bushy keeps putting rainbows in the backgrounds of their cards. I'm not against it, I'm just saying as like a general rule of thumb, I've noticed an extreme uptake in rainbows recently. Anyways, auto when placed on rear guard circle if your Vanguard is a Hound Razor of any grade again. Check the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 unit card with Hound Razor's card from them, reveal, put your hand, show off your deck. If you reveal the cards, card from your hand, put it to soul. So not only does it get you a soul to use for AoE, but it also gets you any Hound Razor you want, which granted in this deck is just your entire grade 2 lineup and your grade 3, but this gets you Meishiro, who can get you more rear guards. It gets you Seishin, you're really good at grade 3 I keep talking about. It can get you Personarites. If you won that run Hound Razor from set 8, it could get you that, and any future Hound Razors they make. Really good card, and again, this card can be placed from anywhere by any means, so if you want a superior call off of AoE, you can. And that continues rear guard or guard circle if your Vanguard's a Hound Razor, it gets 5,000 shield, and if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 greater, it gets extra 5,000 power as well. So mind you, this card is already an inherent 10k shield just the second your Vanguard's a Hound Razor, which again will always be the entire game because your ride line's a Hound Razor line, so 10k shield guaranteed. But then once your opponent hits grade 3, it's a 13k base on rear guard, and again with AoE, it's an 18k base. This deck has a lot of like really good guard power, but also a lot of just good offensive power too. What was the deck I said the last time? Artisaria, that was it. So it's just like Artisaria, where it has really good defensive power, and it also has really good offensive power. It doesn't like break the boat on either one, but it has like a really good midline for both of them, and that's pretty solid to go with. So 4 Villagon for just consistent searching thrown onto that. And then we have 4 PGs and Bringer Protection Keflon. Grade 1 boost, 0 silts, K base, contains Central 4 Sentinels in deck. Auto is put on guard circle, choose on mutes, it cannot be hit on the battle from hands to more cards in it. Choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically means if this one one of cards in your hand, puts on guard circle, you don't have to discard. It's great because that means you'll be super aggressive in the early game. Yeah, if I haven't made that clear already, spam the ever-living hell out of everything you see here, and then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you, throw down Keflon, give him middle finger, you'll be good to go. Very solid PG to have. You can be super aggressive with this deck all you want, and your opponent's gonna have to deal with it, and then you just throw down the PG when you get to low hand cards. You can make this card Aegis Meyer Dragon or Paladinium Zero Dragon. They have the exact same skill as Keflon. I was supposed to make it Keflon though because it came out close to the time of AoE's release. Now I would have made it Aegis Meyer Dragon because if you look very closely at it, it looks like a goddamn zebra, but it's actually a dragon if not told you by the name alone, which is unfortunate because that would be a high beast who could superior call to rear guard, but I digress from my point. Moving on, we have our last grade 1 in the deck. One of in the right deck, none in the main deck of Hound Razor Izumi. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base. Auto rolled upon by Hound Razor Hakurin. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, so it's 1 high beast from them called to rearguard circle shuffle the deck. Literally by being wrote upon by the grade 2, get you a free rearguard. And again, get you a top 5 search, get you resources. It's just a really good like card once you hit grade 3. Again, Zeragon is a good card in general. This thing, 18k beat stick, / 13k beat stick, whatever. Not to mention the fact that auto rearguard when it's boosted by a high beast is 2000 power for the battle. That ability will never come in handy because you can never call this card out from soul or from drop zone. Not like you need it to though, because again, it gets you a free rearguard and your rearguard is going to be filled with high beast anyways. But something is good about him is that he has cute little doggies in his arms. Look at him holding his cute little knife. He's so adorable. Anyways, one of Isumi in the ride deck. This card is just good. It gets you a free rearguard. You don't need any of it in the main deck. On to our grade 2s. 4 copies of, I want to say a phrase to this, but I really don't. Hound Raiser Mishiro. I'm pretty sure half of you already know what I want to say about that. But anyways, grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. I'll focus on the puppies later. So auto inputs on rearguard circle. If your Vanguard's a Hound Raiser, again, of any grade, this deck is the most consistent when it comes to that, where it doesn't require you to be at grade 3 or greater. CB1, check the top 7, choose up to 1 grade 1 how beast from among them, call to rearguard circle shuffle. If you did not call characters 1. So this is either just a straight up shuffle the deck, or it gets you, again, consistent searcher, resources, good card when you're at grade 3, just good card in general, 13k / 18k booster, like very solid with the rearguard recursion here. And then auto rearguard per turn, when this unit attacks while boosted by a high beast, you may soul charge 1, not a mandatory soul charge if you're afraid of decking out, or if you think you're going to see a trigger, no need to soul charge. And if your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, and you have 2 or more back or high beasts, regardless if you soul charge or not, it gets 10,000 power for the battle. So plus the guaranteed 13k bases being boosted by a bare minimum, it's going to be a 33k swing. Odds are it's a 38k swing once your opponent hits grade 3 or greater, regardless of what turn it is for you. So if it's turn 3, aka you went second, you can still get pretty good numbers out of this. Very solid grade 2. Get you soul resources if you need it. It's just a really good beat stick all around. It gets you a rear guard regardless of what grade either player is at. The thing I love about this deck the most is it plays just like you would think a Paladin deck would, like Royal Paladin or Gold Paladin. Your opponent can murk your board as much as they want, give you 2 cards left in the hand, depending on what those 2 cards are, basically one of those Mishuru. More likely than not, you're remaking your board in 5 seconds flat. I love this grade 2. It's really great just building up the offensive in the early game, and it's really great for a comeback move in the late game. It's an awesome 4-of, and also, obviously, doggies, look at them, they're so cool. They like that the little teenage, but also like just straight up stoic doggos ready to go off to war. I love these guys. I love their fur coats. This is my favorite deck to play on aesthetically. Then we have our last grade 2 in the deck, one of them in the right and on the main deck of Hound Raiser Hadouken. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base. Auto and rope on by Hound Raiser Aoi. Check the top 7. Show up to 1 unit card with Hound Raiser in the card from among them. Rope to hand, shuffle your deck. If you not reveal a card, call to rear guard circle and soul charge 1. So it can call itself and get you a soul charge. You pretty much never want to do that. If you can, you want to hopefully hit Meishiro, Seishin, or Aoi over here. But again, if you have to call to rear guard circle in the world, at least it replaces itself with a soul charge. And then auto rear guard when it's boosted by a high beast, uses a high beast normally from your drop zone, and you may put it to bottom. So this is your way to recur your high beast in case again you whiff off your Hound Raiser Surge. Odds are you won't call this thing regardless, like I said, but if you do call it, well, at least you can loop back your Melgons in the deck to pull them off with Aoi and then use those skills consistently over and over and over again. All around though, pretty solid grade 2 to have, so it's a nice one to have in the right deck, none in the main deck. And look at the doggies, they're so cute. They're so much bigger and a little bit more terrifying. That one's more terrifying. That one just looks happy with a smile. Then we have 4 copies of our really good, both just defensive and offensive grade 3 Hound Raiser Seishin. So grade 3 10% 13k base, continuous front row rear guard circle. All your high beats on rear guard get intercepted, can intercept from back row. So including like the one on the front row as well, they can all gain intercept now, which again, some of them, Vilgon, Raygon, get extra shield as well. So pretty much able to use them fully defensively and offensively as well is really good. The thing is though, being a card that has to proc in front of a rear guard circle, that means if your opponent murks it, odds are that you can't put it in a safer spot. But on the bright side, you can put Doom in the front row unless your opponent kills both of them. Well, they're not going to be able to shut down your intercept. That actually did save me one game where my opponent had the ability to nuke one of my rear guards before the battle phase, but because they could only nuke one, and because I had put 2 stations in the front row because that was my only way to be aggressive, well, it turns out that's what kept me alive, because that means all my high beasts still retain the intercept. Then auto rear guard once per turn. When this unit attacks while boosted by a high beast unit, if your Vanguard's a Hound Raiser, again, regardless of a grade the opponent's Vanguard's, that gets 5,000 power. However, if they're a grade 3 or greater, energy boss 3 give it a crit as well. So for the record, 90% of this deck can proc off full of its abilities regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at, and 9 times out of 10 you'll have an 18k to 23k booster. Let's just say you have an 18k booster boosting this guy on your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard. That's a 36k swing without triggers. Pretty solid. And then when your opponent hits grade 3, give it an extra crit as well for pressure. And again, while it's once per turn, it's once per turn per copy, meaning if you have 2 stations in your front row, both these things are swinging for at least 36k without triggers or Persona Rise included, with double critical going into your Vanguard's face. All around very solid. It's a really good use of energy offensively, and it's a really good card defensively as well because it maintains all your rear guard's intercepts and shield values with it. So it's a very solid 4-up. And these dogs look so cool. Look at that one just staring in the background, just waiting to attack you. See, like you know not to fuck with this one. The intercept is to make you think this guy's defensive, but no, he's all about offense. And of course, our last card in the deck, being a 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the red deck of our main grade 3 Hound, Razor, Owie. The one card I don't really like the art of the dogs because they just feel so ferocious compared to like the cute little things that you just want to hug with all your might, like that one, but whatever. Anyways, grade 3 10% with 13k base, continues Vanguard Circle. All of your back row high beasts get 5,000 power, active over burst turns. So all of your back row is a guaranteed 13k base unless it's Chevalmia, which in that case is a 10k base. But again, pretty much all of your back row has the ability to get power outside of Raygon. So you know we have 18k base over here, 18k to 23k base possibly. We have, you know, 18k base most likely over here, 18k base most likely over here. So you get the point. You're pretty much swinging for really good numbers all around. And then active Vanguard once return, Soul Blast 2, search after 1 high beast card, call to rear guard, search off the deck. So cool, get you just a rear guard. It's pretty solid. Also, by the way, the 5k is during both players' turns, so if your opponent tries to like ram into it with a back row attacker, yeah, it's still going to be really hard for them to hit over it. And then active Vanguard once per turn, counter boss 1, choose one of your grade 1 or less high beasts in the back row center rear guard column, and until end of the turn, that unit can attack from back row, and it also gets auto rear guard. At the battle that this unit attacks, stand it, and it cannot attack until end of the turn. And your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 guard also gets to perform drives to the battle that unit attack. So pretty solid. It basically gets you a 4th attack for only 1 CB regardless of how great the opponent's Vanguard's at, and not to mention the fact that at the end of the battle it stands, and while it can no longer attack from the back row again, it can still boost the Vanguard, and again, it's probably at the bare minimum 13k swinger, and if it's Raygon, which is preferred, cool, force out 2 cards, and if it's not, well, it's going to probably force out 2 cards anyways because it's one of your big beat sticks. All around, very solid grade 3 to have in the deck. It makes your already decent beat sticks even just bigger beat sticks. Once per turn, it just pulls a high beast out from deck for deck thinning for rear guard recursion, and not to mention the fact that it just gives you a back row attack for a simple CB, and it possibly gives you drive checks as well for literally no additional cost attached onto that. Very solid grade 3 to have in the deck. I love how this card supports this deck, and I love how this deck turned from what you would imagine would have just been like a consistency based build where like maybe they decked in a lot or basically pull up a bunch of Saragons so they check the top 2. No, it's just build up the board with grade 1s and beat the opponent to death with a bunch of dogs with weapons. Very solid grade 3 to have. 3 in the main deck, 1 in the right deck. Without further ado, this is it for this one. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. Also, this deck is a lot more fun to play than I thought it was. I remember when it first came out, I didn't really care for it. I thought it was just like another waifu deck, especially because, I don't know, Aoi and Meishiro over here feel very waifu-y. But, I mean, the deck really is just fun spamming down a bunch of grade 1 dogs and then increasing their power every single turn and just throwing hands with everything you see move. Like, honest to God, this reminds me why I love Luard so much back in the original. So, without further ado, I'm going to end here. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.